Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, here's another one of those radionic, ridiculous instruments. This is a little more interesting than most, but after examining the infamous garbage tech that Peggotty boards are, it's just shocking what people think they can get results with. One of the problems, this is talked about healing in the book Healing with Radionics, is how they virtually used any type of tool. I think there were even bells that supposedly cured everybody. Of course, this technology is working so well to cure anybody that nobody on the planet is sick anymore. Interesting, huh? Now, the Peggotty board, the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen, supposed to be the white and black, and it sets up a little pattern. Well, these simple little patterns, and this started with Malcolm Ray and his circles with little dots and lines in it, which I don't really think are effective. It's amazing how people carry stuff on that makes no sense. We're at a particular time where we have to figure this out. We know what force energies are, occulton fields, and we have to make sure that what's out there works. But people want to feel a superiority. They want to believe in nonsense. Of course, that's why we have comic book religions and all the things that go on out there. So we shouldn't be overly surprised. But alternative people, I'm getting to believe here, are stupider than the common people. Of course, it's hard to take any of these fifth seriously that believe in Bayesian thinkings and Occam's razor. Well, if it hasn't happened before, the possibility of it happening again ain't very strong. I'm Mr. Bayesian. Occam's razor. Everything's a rock. That's the simplest conclusion to come to. So everything in this world is goofy. Now, while everything should be explored, we need to make sure that there's some validity to it. Now, remember, when you get something like this, it's comical even looking at it. I think you could have found something a little nicer. This is some sort of Home Depot mold you get for something. I'm not sure what you pour in here, or maybe it's a mixing bowl or some nonsense. It's not really any kind of thing you'd use at home. This looks like a mold that you would get at a home store. Now, let's check this out here. Get one of my... And, what kind of energy is this putting out? You always get it going back and forth. And then you ask, is it positive, clockwise, negative, counterclockwise, or is it neutral? Now, I'm holding it over, which I'll show you here, the guts of it, the real power of the unit. Well, this is coming up neutral, which means there's not really putting out any energy at all. Now, will that change when you put a rate in it? But that's really not a good thing. Something like this should be really showing that it has positive energies. It's showing it has no energies. And that's pretty much been my experience with it. Now, this is an Atlantean unit, as it's called by the Canadian Radionic. I don't know what the Canadian Radionic. They've been around for probably 40, 50 years. Last time I went to their site, everything was 2-3 years old, if not older. So I don't believe they're doing anything. They may be dead. That may be a dead site. I'm not sure if you can get a hold of them. They have lots of rates and other things, which, this is the reason why I don't like using other people's rates and what kind of validity do they have. Do these people know what they're doing? They used to put out extremely crude information. They would take a sales brochure for something like Bach flower remedies, and then they would get the rates for each one, and they would just write it on the brochure. Save yourself some time. They're also very difficult to pay. They don't want to use modern pay systems like PayPal and other things. You can't use credit cards. They got all sorts of problems there, showing they're a backward-thinking organization and really out of it. They have this unit, and they have some other little electronic unit that I'm sure does nothing as well. But they do have all these courses. They do have all this stuff. But again, when people are this far off the track, what are you going to learn from them? As a researcher, I buy and read everything. As a customer, you need to stay away from stupid organizations like this, which is basically all of them. But here we go. Now, how does this work? Now, this is, as I said, basically, let's pop this out. This is basically just a bowl looks like a mold of some sort. There's no markings on it. It's not very strong, but it isn't really weak either. It's got some, I guess it's fairly strong. And the guts of it is this item right here. Now, I've looked at this in the light and everything else, and this smells a very common smell to me, which is fiberglass. Anybody who's been to surf shops and other things will know that smell of fiberglass. Which is interesting. I'm not sure what fiberglass smell or fiberglass in general as a material for radionics, how good that would be. This is obviously a stone. This looks like selenite, but it's really hard to say what it is. But it looks like selenite, and I'm assuming they put some energy in it. Okay? And this is supposed to be your manifesting core of this. They programmed this particular type of crystal, which of course may have some value to it. This goes in the center here. You're done. You know, I do love simplicity, but some things are so simplistic. It's what you're doing to it. While my discs are simplistic, there's a lot of work in them. They have special sound frequencies in the actual disc. They have complicated sigils in them with many, many sigils, could be as many as a couple of hundred. We also then have a particular code on the disc. So the whole idea is that's a fairly complicated process. And of course, we have very technical equipment to broadcast it with. Tube amplifiers, special transmitters that are, both of these tools are taken at the subatomic level and converted so they can use the special energy. So all of that is a reality here. Let's test this again now that it's sitting in here. Does this have positive, negative, or neutral energy? Neutral. So nothing is happening here. Now, what is the jive behind this? And I'm going to test this out again. I used this a few times and did absolutely nothing. I'm going to test it again with an upgrade. I'm going to show you how to upgrade junk like this to get something to work. So this works. What they tell you is you got to fill this entire bowl with water. It has to be a half an inch from the top. Well, there's a problem there. Not that, first of all, that's a lot of water. That's number one, and I would recommend you using distilled water, because if you use water from your tap that is full of toxins and everything else, which they don't seem to understand, that can't be very good. And if this is sensing and sending information, you're going to have, what, lead, toxins, Legionnaire bacteria, which are all over Europe by the bucketful, the horrible bacteria that are in the waters because they don't heat their water properly. So there's all sorts of garbage in your particular water, including all sorts of remnants of prescription drugs, apparently. So if you're not using a distilled water, then you have a problem. Now, if you want to add some mineral activity into it, I recommend getting liquid minerals that you would normally take as a supplement and putting in about a fourth of a teaspoon in there, just a little bit. I get a spray bottle, I just put a couple of drops in there, and you can move that around to give it some energetic effect, because minerals, otherwise known as metals, tend to stimulate things. They don't tell you to do that. They don't tell you to do any of that. And as you said, hopefully this has died its own death. You can't find these. We may be selling this in the future. Do watch our promotions and sales stuff if you're that interested. And this was very expensive, including shipping to Europe. I don't know, $400 or $500 at the time to get a plastic bin with a little bit of crystal that they programmed in there. Now, the problem with programming crystals is that we don't really know how well they work or not. So basically, that's what you do. Now, you also do here is the fact that you don't touch anything. They're paranoid about touching. So you get the pictures and you drop them in there. You also put in an actual rate here, a written number rate, and you can use any. So you want to use pre-made up rates, and you want to put ping, and you don't want to touch it because your energy is going to be flying out of here. Knock somebody over. Look out! Look out! I touched the picture. So, I mean, this is why these things are ridiculous. But after the Peggotty board, basically invented by a complete moron that knows nothing about force energy physics, is anything absurd anymore? And it's fascinating that Peggotty board is mentioned in radionic books and is something that you see in radionics in general. These are the reason why radionics is laughed at. Plain and simple, because it's stupid when you include stuff like that. And people don't understand what goes with it. Oh, my. Oh, yes. Okay. So you then put your pictures in here. Do we have something around here? Here's somebody's picture. You lay it in there. You write on there some rate. Or make your own rate and write it in there. Here's the pictures. There. Ooh, put it in there. And, of course, you don't want to touch them anything. Ooh. It's so sensitive. You know, like homeopathics, that you're not supposed to touch them or anything else. Yeah. Why take them then? Hundreds have touched them. People have touched the bottles. They've been sitting on shelves for months. They go through the mail. Your carrier does it. You handle it. Someone else handles it. The dog handles it. Everybody's touched it. I guess it don't work. So, nonsense. Energies are not that fragile. Period. Now, if you go in there and do other things, maybe stick it on a giant magnet or something, maybe that affects it. But you got to remember, these are not electromagnetic energies. But, of course, a lot of people are charging homeopathy preparations using frequency-type machines. So that means that all you've got is a frequency in there, and that could be fragile against magnets or other things. But that's not real homeopathy anyway. So it has to be just energy. So that's it. So you fill it up here. To about a half an inch from the top. You've got this big, heavy, obnoxious, water-filled thing. And this is big. I mean, where's my measure? Here it is. Let's measure this. So you're talking about 14 inches or over a foot. And it's going to be heavy fill because you got to fill it all the way. You can't just put a little water in it. They say you have to fill it all the way up. Now, why that is, I have absolutely no idea. If they're trying to create some energy barrier, I don't quite understand that. It's a bizarre way of looking at things that I've never really heard of before. This is unique to them. And I do like unique stuff. You know, where is it coming from is quite interesting when you get into all that. So, but, you know, what you want to do to upgrade things is that this certainly, and we have discs for transferring from one to another, which are not these, but we're going to demonstrate it here. The whole idea is you want a broadcast disc to give this power. This is a broadcast disc. You would put that underneath, right in the center there, so you want to send that energy over to some real energy, which is your amplifier, which should have a antenna coming out on the back of it. Now you've got a broadcasting unit, and if you really want to be special, you make sure you get a 3-section one that has a little transmitter with it, so that we have that. And of course, you got to remember that each one of these has their own disc to transmute it to pick up these kind of energies. Can be picked up by this and transmitted. Normal energies, these units will not pick up normal energy. They will not do that. Oh, look at that! They give you choppy sticks. What a deal! So the whole idea is that's the reality of how this works. And I'm going to be testing this with the upgrades. And of course, this is how you would upgrade any tool that you have. All you got to do is get the discs, and they come with the upgrades. You'll get an activator disc, you'll get an energy transfer disc, and it's as simple as that. So you've got all this extra going on, which is critically important because of the low energetic level that force energy fields have. They're powerful in their own way, but you have to make sure you amplify these energies that you put in here, rate energies, etc., are all very weak. So they tend not to manifest very well for people or take too long. So what you do is you take the energy that's coming out of here, if there is any, and that will then be amplified by these dramatically. So, as I said, I will test this. I had this running for a few weeks, and it did absolutely nothing. But I will try it again with some different rates and see how everybody is flying to the moon with success. But as I said, this has got to be the weirdest thing out there other than at least this has a concept to it. You've got that very fascinating. Let's look at that yet again. But I've looked through this carefully with very strong flashlights, etc., And there is nothing in here that I can tell. Now, is there some sort of powder and stuff in here? Is this a powder of some sort that they put in here around this? It's hard to say. That may be something they powdered and put in here, whatever it is. It's hard to say. This is definitely white in here, which could be some sort of powder, which I don't believe this actually here is white. The actual resin they used, the fiberglass resin, which is is generally clear. So there must be something else in there, as well as using what appears to be selenite in there to send the energies. So, and let's see if we can ask the pendulum itself. Did we test just this? Is this a positive, a negative, or neutral? Now, you always get it going a little. And then, of course, it's difficult when you're not concentrating and talking on a camera. Is this positive, negative, or neutral? Neutral. So when you get something like this, I'm not sure that neutral is good at all. It may mean that it has no energy at all. Negative obviously would mean it putting off negative, which is not doing. And of course, positive always is a good sign, meaning it's got empowered energies in it. This shows that it has nothing in it. So that's bad, and that means unlikely it wouldn't work. So again, this is just popped in here in the center. You fill it with water, but it's a very awkward thing. And when this is full of water, it's very, very heavy. It also is, meaning you got water problems. You don't want to put this on the floor because you'll bang into it. Pets would drink out of it. All those types of things. It's a big item, being 14 inches here, over a foot. Where do you put it? And so it takes up a huge amount of space, which is another thing. But if it works, well, you find a table for it like anything. And certainly it's an interesting, fun to certain experiment with it that everyone could try if they had something like that. But as I said, as far as I know, that company is out of business. I would not. You know, one problem I have with reviewing stuff is people seem to take it as some sort of odd advertisement for people. That they look at and they say, well, I think it's okay, Dr. Thor, I'm going to go buy it. I don't promote anybody. Nobody promotes me, and these people that make stuff like this have no idea what they're doing. Now, I like to test these things if somehow they have something going on that may be effective in quality, and I'm the first person to get in line to start using it. As I always say, I'm into results. I manufacture and produce my own products because all the other stuff doesn't work. It's junk and it's expensive. And this certainly, that put out absolutely no energy, is something that is not worth investing your money in. But watch in a few weeks or months, this may be on sale in my store along with other units that I liquidate, and you can get it for a low price and try it yourself. Wouldn't that be exciting? So we'll see how it goes, and I'll report back on this as I report back on many things, including the fantastic protective tools here. This protective tool in particular, which I have my photograph in, has done wonders of blocking energy and allowing quick manifestation. So do check these out as that we offer for sale. So that's the story on that. But with any, if you had, no matter what you have, you should be upgrading them with a tube amplifier and a transmitter. And there's a lot of machines out there, and they're all very, very weak. But you don't have to buy an entirely new machine. Just get an upgrade, and you're set. These are wireless. They work on everything. They work by these energy plates, as I've mentioned, that you have to have under each one. That all comes with your kit. These are fantastic tools, and you're going to get the finest and best. Beautiful. And these are all metal boxes. This isn't cheap junk. These are two large tubes that produce excellent energy, and you've got it's not a super strong transmitter, but you don't need super strong transmitters in general. But it's all very high quality. These will last you a lifetime. And, if you want to get results, don't think that the people you got the equipment from know anything, because they don't. And be careful to make sure that it isn't toxic. If you've got any orgone tool, you most likely have a toxic unit and you should be getting a clearing plate. Here's the clearing plate, and it comes with a tachyon plate. And you have these two, you place it under your orgone unit, no matter who made it, and this will bring the toxicity down by a great degree and pretty much solve your problems. But anytime you're dealing with these machines, there is an intrinsic problem with them. They put off negativity, and don't believe me, check it out yourself. Check out the spins on these orgone machines, and they put out huge amounts of negative energy that is not going to be positive in your life. Many orgonite and orgone users have died, including the person who made that stuff and who died pretty young, and his wife died even younger. So if you think there's some great stimulating vitality to any kind of orgone, well, you've got your head up your bottom. Hope you've enjoyed. Many more coming.